All right, any moment now it's going to start. I believe we already have. But anyway, let's continue our convo. I'll intro you in a second. Actually, let's just do it right now, okay? Alex Vidal, I feel like you have to say it with an accent. Am I saying that? Is it president of ERA?
Yeah,
I
that's
always
right.
get all mixed up, president, CEO, all this stuff, and I never realized like what a big deal it was. And then like I say it wrong, and people are like, no, 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 I am, and it's like, all right,
No,
cool.
I don't care, man. Yeah, we'll talk about that too.
Well, based on the convo a minute ago about Mexico, we'll just call you Honcho at
El
ERA.
presidente.
El Presidente. You and I were just talking, and I said yeah, yeah, forget, let's just put this on the podcast.
Yeah,
You just got back from Tulum,
I did.
man.
I did.
I am heading to Tulum.
Okay.
You were there. You stayed at, you said the B hotel. What's it called? The
Yeah,
B.
B Tulum. I heard after the fact from one of my brokers that it used to be Pablo Escobar's old house
Yeah.
in Mexico that got
Yeah.
converted to the resort. It was, man, the hotel room had an outdoor tub, uh,
Dude.
living room. We had a rooftop pool, but we couldn't use it because it was like 70 and cold and windy.
I feel so bad when you told me that like you went there and it was cold and windy. Like I can't imagine going to Tulum and getting that. I've never experienced anything other than 85 and sunny. And I literally just sent a text in the group chat to my guys that I'm doing Tulum with,
Uh,
showing them the forecast and we're there 85, 86, 80. Like we're just like
oh,
I'd be so ticked if I showed up in Tulum and it was rainy and like what's the point of being here?
well, here, so interesting thing because it was funny. We were just talking about this in this big group sales meeting. I was in, like, we couldn't control the weather. We couldn't get a refund on our hotel. It was non-refundable, and it was like $1,000 a night. It wasn't cheap.
Yeah, I was gonna say that place, like where we're going to, so I know the area. We're right next to where you are. Like
Yeah.
it's beautiful places. They're not cheap, but man, they are like they're some of the most beautiful beaches and everything in the world. Like just amazing.
Yeah, so my girlfriend and I were just like, screw it, let's just make the best of it, and that's what we did. Can't control the weather, but a lot of tequila, nothing that can't fix, and we ended
Yes.
up having a great trip. And I was joking with her. I'm like, if we could have a trip where you couldn't really participate in the beach and all the extracurricular stuff, like the shows and all
Yeah.
that, you're able to still have a great time. Then imagine when you can go to the beach and have everything else that Tulum
Was
is
that
like.
your first time in Tulum?
It was. Yeah.
Oh God. So now that's what you think Tulum is. Oh
Now
my
I'm going back,
God.
man. I got to go back. I need a second dose.
You'll have to ask us next time I'm there with my guys. You can just show up out of nowhere. That's the so I still haven't brought my wife. I'm bringing my wife there because I told her how much she'll love it there. But we went there years ago on a guys trip and we just go back every year because it's like it's everything you want. Like during the day, we're literally just throwing the frisbee and just, hanging out and it's gorgeous and it's whatever. And then anything you want to do at night, everything's walkable. Like you walk to any nightlife, you walk to any restaurant, you walk. Now it's a pain in the butt to get to, but once you're there, you're there. And it is, I hate the fact that you were there when it was cold and windy because that is not.
Are you flying into Cancun or
I'm
Tulum?
I'm flying into Cancun. I'm flying out of Tulum
Okay.
because I have an event. Welcome to my world. This is like you. I'm sure you're the same way right now. We'll get into this in a second, but I'm always coming from or to somewhere, right? Like my life is so non-conventional. It's ridiculous. I mean, I'm married. My wife lives. We live bi-coastally. Like it's a crazy thing. But I've got an event in I'm going there tomorrow. Atlanta. I have an
Okay.
event in Atlanta, and then I'm taking a direct flight to Cancun. I got a car picking me up, driving me to Tulum, and I will get in around midnight. And then really, we'll start the next day. My friends will already be there, but that's the
Who
best I could do.
can get started at midnight?
Not that's gonna be my quiet. Just come in. I know that if they are, they're gonna be going, come on, come on. We'll see though. We'll see how things go. But either way, we're just going in for a few nights. It's gonna be a blast. I always try to do it because I'm about to hit like my crazy, crazy season. And
Mhm.
I'm just like, I learned years ago, man, like that time with the guys that I go with, I won't mention it on here. I'll tell you another time offline or something. But they're people that people know, like they've sold their companies for just ridiculous amounts of money and whatever. And they are guys that literally I can sit on the beach and have conversations with that I can't have with any like normal human being. And then we can act like 12-year-olds. Like it's just like it's the best combination in the world.
Yeah.
And it's so healthy. Like it's I'm gonna go do that my guys trip. My wife's gonna be in Hawaii on a girls trip. And this is one of the things, this isn't what we're gonna talk about today, but like I think people so underplay because of their insecurities and everything else, how powerful guy time and girl time is for a relationship. And yet most relationships don't do it. They just, it's insecurity, it's whatever it is. But man, it's been so good for me. But
This means you're not, well, it means for those people they're not in the right, they're not in the right relationship. My girlfriend last year, she went to Thailand. Where else did she go? She went to France, all on girls' trips. I
oh
think she went
God.
to Cabo, and I'm like, I slept like a baby. I'm like, go. I like,
I just got back from Cabo. I'm the one pushing. I'm pushing my wife, like, go, like, have a good time. Like, there's something about that, man, because it means there's a certain amount of trust. It means there's a certain amount of like you understanding that like they need that. They, like I said, you're not insecure. Like, oh, you're with them, you're not with me. Like,
yeah.
there's just, I won't go into it. That's not what this thing is about. But let's face it, man. That's what most relationships are. Like, it's,
Well, well, it does. It kind of blows. Like my girlfriend's going to Cabo in 2 weeks for a girls' trip. Like, or no, she's actually going back to Tulum. I'm sorry. But it does. It's having the confidence in yourself, having the
oh,
confidence in the relationship, having the confidence in your partner, and you can, live life on your terms. Which I don't think a lot of agents are. Not the segue, but let's use it as a segue.
dude.
How many agents aren't living life on their terms because they don't have that confidence or the ability to trust and just trust in themselves, believe in themselves, right?
Yeah. Or they have a bunch of miserable people telling them how to be happy. Like,
That,
like I mean, you're surrounded by a group of people. Let's face it, man. We live in a world with societal pressures that tell you, like, here's you do this, you don't do this, you don't do that. And then you say why, and they go, you don't do that. And really, it's that they can't do it.
yeah.
And again, I won't go into it all right now just because, we've got other things to talk about. But man, if anything, the last 5, 10 years of my life, like I've figured out so much of is just like, man, we get one of these, and it's this sounds so corny and whatever, but like you can have it all. Like I'm probably the most active dad just ridiculously active and with my boys and doing and yet I'm teaching them on how to work your butt off, but for what? Like what you get these people who grind themselves into the ground and then they die one day. And it was like, so what was that for? Like, what did you do? And so I learned, in the last 5, 10 years, really the last 5 years, what do you do it for? Grinding was never an issue for me. Working hard was never an issue. Like hustle was never an issue. Like that whole culture that I got no issue with that. But then when it came to like, just doing stuff just to do it and doing things and enjoying your life and doing things that add to your ability to do other things and, all that stuff, it was like we almost like guilt ourselves that you don't do that
Yeah.
or that's no good or that's no, like rest in our society is looked down on, you
Yeah,
know?
and enjoying the ride while you're doing it. Like how many people are grinding and doing it, and then ultimately not enjoying it, and then they actually cross the finish line and get it, and they're like, eh. And so not
Yeah.
only were they not, they were underwhelmed by accomplishing it, but then they also didn't enjoy it along the way. Jared,
Yeah. They
how?
wait, they wait until they're at a point where they can't see 4 feet in front of them and now they're traveling the world.
Mhm.
And it's like you don't even know the difference between what country you're in. Like you're, whatever. Like I want to, and what I've done is build a life where I can have impact. I can work my butt off. I can run multiple companies. I can, but then I can also do the things that I want to do. And have the experiences that I want to experience and be around the people that I want to be around. And it's just it's a cool thing that you can almost do a whole
How old are you, Jared?
43,
43. How old are your kids?
18 and 16.
That's a great age, man.
It's crazy, but they're like my boys now. Like literally, I'm
Yeah.
doing another thing people don't know is I'm doing a tour of Florida. I've got an event coming up in Florida next week or the week after. I can't remember when it is, but my I'm taking one of my sons. We're flying in on Friday night and we're touring all over Florida, and then ending up in my event that Tuesday or whatever. And then he's going to come to the event with me, and we're flying back.
Okay.
And it's like the coolest thing because now he's 18 and like I'm telling him how like, hey, we're gonna go do City Walk, and there's this karaoke club there, and it's
Oh, you're
so
gonna
much fun. And
party
me and
tour.
my
You're not.
guys do it. And what's
Oh,
that?
you're gonna party tour. You're not gonna college tour. I thought you were doing like
No,
college.
it's a college tour. No,
Oh,
it's
okay.
a college tour, but it's like we're gonna go experience. Okay, so we're hitting all these different cities all across Florida, and we're gonna go on certain ones, stop in there, see what the college life is like. Like what are the areas like around the college at night? What's it like? And then we're stopping in one night at City Walk in Universal downtown Universal, where
Oh,
me and my guys for years have gone to this karaoke at night and had a blast. But now he's old enough to get in, so he's gonna come to that, and we're doing a road tour. It's gonna be a blast.
that's awesome, dude. My
Yeah.
I have a 27-year-old, but my 17-year-old is about to be 18, and
Well,
we're
how
doing
old are you?
46.
Dang, look at that. I love it, man.
Yeah, crazy, man. So yeah,
27. Okay.
boys are. I have four boys. 27. almost 18 and my twins are 15. So our kids are close in age.
Oh my God. Now you said girlfriend, so you're divorced?
Divorced 2 years ago.
Okay, I was gonna say, so how I was gonna say ask you how soon. I was 4 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that. I'm like so bad with time frames.
Congratulations.
Yeah. I'm gonna leave that alone.
Listen, it's funny when people tell me they got divorced or they're getting divorced. I'm always like, congrats, because either you're no longer with somebody you don't want to be with,
Something
or
happened
you're with somebody who
where
doesn't want to be with you. So like, who cares?
dude,
You know?
I say it all the time. Like, I'm not pro divorce. Like, I'm not because there's an effect of that and with children and all that other kind of stuff. And my thing when I went through mine was just like my worry was my kids, my whatever. And now that we've come out that side, and my kids are great, and they love like my wife, my ex, her fiance is a great guy, like such a good guy, like nice guy. My kids love him, like he's whatever. Now I'm like, oh my God, we get to be happy. Like this is holy crap.
Amen.
Like,
Amen.
whoa, what happened here? You know?
Dude, it is. And again, I know this is going to get out, whatever, but like, it's amazing when you're in that spot with somebody who is on the same page as you,
Yeah.
what professionally, personally, it's
Yeah.
amazing
It's
how,
not, by the way, it's not even like sometimes when we say things like that, it almost sounds like you're saying like, oh, the other person, whatever. Every person has like it's like shapes that they fit together, and they can make each other happy, and they can, whatever. And sometimes when you're really young, you mismatch those shapes.
yeah.
Like it's unfortunate, but it's true. And there's
How long were you married for?
God, man. So I was 20. Let me think a second here. How old was I when I got, how long was I married? 20 something years.
Yeah.
I was
Oh,
together with my ex since I was 16. She was in college.
oh, Jesus.
Literally, it was one of those deals where some college girl who's good looking, whatever, says, how old are you? My friend answers.
Uh,
And I'm like, all right, like I don't care. Like, okay, I'm 18, like whatever.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then a month later, you're going, oh crap. You're in a bowling alley on date 6 or something, and you're going, so I'm not a freshman in college. I'm actually a junior in high
Junior
school, but
high
I
school.
do have my driver's license, like I do. And so yeah, one of those deals. Crazy. But did you say you're in Montana right now?
I am in Montana. I've been New Jersey to Tulum to Montana.
I'll be in Montana in a couple weeks. What part of
Where?
Montana are you in?
I'm in Bozeman at the moment, and then
Okay.
as soon as we're done, I have a meeting, and then I'm driving to Billings
It's
after.
so it's so funny, man, because like I travel a ton, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're so lucky. You're so." I just got off a thing for 4 countries in Europe, and everybody's like, "Oh, you're so lucky. You're so lucky." And I'm like, "You don't understand. Like, look, if I'm traveling with my wife, or like doing that travel with my son will be fun, doing whatever. But just the general travel, like just it sucks.
Like,
Like it is just." You're hoping to God that you get a hotel room that doesn't have a yellow phone that used to be white, especially if you're in Montana, by the way.
have you added like how many miles or nights you did in hotels and how many trips you did last year?
So you know what's funny? My TripIt app keeps trying to show it to me,
Uh-huh.
because it does a thing now that it wants you to share socially. I've
Yeah, yeah,
not
yeah.
looked at it.
What's it called? TripIt app?
TripIt. No, so I use TripIt as an app,
Okay.
TRIPIT. So everything, so my assistant handles all my events, my calendar. Like I freaking love her. Like she's incredible. Like I mean, even like I'm doing your conference, like she's handled everything, done, she's awesome. But we take everything down to, hotel, the flight, the car, the whatever, anything that has to do with travel, and we forward it to plans@tripit.com. And because it has our email addresses registered, it automatically creates plans. So I
Okay.
can literally just jump on here, and I can go on my TripIt app, and it literally just lists all my stuff. And when I go in it, everything's in there, itinerary notes, like everything is in there. So it
Oh, I'm
just
gonna
it
have to,
keeps things nice and succinct for me.
interesting. I'm gonna have to,
You don't use anything like that?
well, we have Concur and Travel Leaders, which is like where we run our expense management. We have to book all our travel
Yep.
through it. I mean,
Yep.
last year, just for
I think
ERA,
I think they integrate.
really?
Yep.
I mean, just for ERA, last year I took 34 trips. I spent 90 plus days in hotels and I flew over 200,000 miles just for ERA, let alone let alone the personal. Now you want to look, don't you?
No,
Now
I took a quick glance yesterday, and
what was it? What was it?
I'm gonna tell you. Okay,
All right, let's hear it.
you want
Let's
to do
hear it.
this live in front of everybody?
Let's
I'm
do it.
not
Why not?
proud of this, and I've actually been limiting travel. And last year, actually, last few years, man, I went down big time just because when you get post divorce and everything, I was just like, I need to be around my kids. I need to,
Yeah.
And then I kind of let things go a little too wild this year, and now I'm ringing it back in.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I literally had a conversation with my assistant yesterday. I said, we're raising my fee and we're not doing like, I'm just like, my whole thing is just trying to like do the majors, do the ones where I have relationships with people. And like, it's just gotten nutty. Let me look here. Okay. So if I go to trips, I go to past trip, I'm trying to figure out how I saw this the other day. Oh, here we go. Travel stats, 2024. Wait, how many days you say?
Uh, in a hotel, 90 plus. It was like 93 or 94, something like that.
Yeah, mine wasn't great. It was 127.
Jesus Christ. Dude, that's 4+ months. Think about that. Four
Dude,
plus months.
dude, let's not depress me before we get this going here.
I hear you.
Yeah, man, it's like I said, man, I have a non-conventional life, man. I'm always kind of going, coming from somewhere, doing whatever. I've got 4 or 5 different girls in college that basically like to watch my dog that I just like rotate them. Like when I
Yeah.
go away, I'm like, because I want my dog to stay here. So I'm like, here, whatever. And then, I integrate as much as possible. I bring my boys, my wife comes and does stuff. But it's, traveling, man. It's a lot of also just by yourself, just,
Yeah.
and but just see, I'm a natural introvert. Like I can do this. I can get on an arena stage. I can do social stuff. I can go into a room and whatever, but my natural gear is in the hotel room by myself.
Yeah.
Like that's how I recharge, you
I,
know?
I relate.
So that part I love. I just don't like the travel, like like when I do the European trip, right? It's like you'll be on the plane and be thinking to yourself, I can't do this anymore. How much longer is there? And then you'll look up and there's 8.5 hours left on the flight,
Yeah.
and you're just, and look, guys, for everybody listening, these are first world problems. Don't get me wrong.
Well, you got
Um,
to enjoy it, right? Like, because if you do, like, listen, man, if we like, we hate it, but at the same time, we love what we do. Because if you,
please.
I
Yeah.
mean, you'd be burned. You would have burned out already.
That you know what that's I say it all the time. People don't burn out because they do too much. People burn out because they do too much they don't care about.
Yeah.
And there's so much truth in that. And so I'm trying to integrate way more. Like I've got my wife coming to Portugal with me this year for an event I'm doing there. And we're gonna hang out there a few days after. And like that stuff I just never did. I would literally last year I was in Portugal for 4 hours.
Mhm.
Like landed, event, out, like, whatever. And sometimes I still have to do that, but that's honestly, I mean, it's funny we're talking about this. That's the side of my life that I don't put as much of online and such. It's like all that, whatever, but it's crazy, man. It's like when people come over, I'll get a lot of people at events and they'll be like, "Man, I want to be you. How do I whatever?" And in my head, I'm always thinking to myself like it's almost like someone who says they want to be the number one agent.
Mhm.
Like there's a price to be paid,
Sure.
like there's so much sacrifice that goes into that. There's so much, it's not just the peak, and that's how I feel sometimes when people will look at my life or look at someone like you going around. It's like, hey, maybe, but in order to do that, you've got to understand we're all different pieces on the chessboard, and if you're not built for that and you're not able to make those kind of moves, you're not going to do well.
Yeah.
If you put a rook in a queen spot, that rook isn't going to last long.
Yeah.
And
Have you, have
so
you, uh, have you come across when you don't travel? Like I didn't travel for a month, like half of December to half of January, like December 15th to January 15th, I didn't travel. And I was like at home, like, what do I do with myself? Like, yeah, I spent time with my boys. I was working out, like all that stuff. And I'm kind of like, man, like I gotta go. Like I felt like something was missing, you know?
I get so into routine, like so into routine, which I love. Like I eat the same things, I go to the gym at the same times. I actually love it because I'm like I got my boys, or I'll go and like so I kind of like I'll live here and then I'll live in Cali where my wife is too, and so I'll get to go there and do stuff and not have to think about when I'm leaving. I got to rush over here. I know exactly what you mean. I actually do. I've just found myself now kind of enjoying it ever since I got married again, and my kids are getting older. I find myself kind of like I enjoy it. I get more social content out because I'm able to actually be more consistent and here, and I get to rest a little. I get to see friends locally that I don't always get to see. Like I get to do things that you know that
Where,
are
where,
all a part of my life, but I don't always get to do.
where do you live?
Connecticut. Dude,
Oh,
I'm
okay.
not far from Tom. Can you grab my coffee? I'm not far from your guys' headquarters in New Jersey. I'm
Yeah.
like an hour and a half from there.
Okay.
Thank you, Tomas. So let's get into this, man.
Yeah, do it.
We've given people the tutorial and told them to use TripIt with no sponsorship from them. Let's just be clear. Tom, let's get on that. Hey everyone, I want to take a moment and talk to you about a really cool company called Privy. You know, if you were listening to this episode or even moving forward here, you're going to notice that I'm going to talk a lot about investors and how I think this is a huge part of the market that if you're growing a real estate business, we're not paying enough attention to. You know, I'm a big believer here that sometimes to grow your business, you don't just have to pick up a piece of the pie that's already there. Sometimes you have to go to a completely different pie. And it's so interesting because when you look at it, you look at all the data and you see that, you know, 26, 27%, almost 30% of all residential transactions in the last 12 months were investors, right? They were investors. And when I was an agent, like a ton of the business that I did were investors. And so a lot of you hear that and you're like, oh, it's institutional investors. Do you know institutional investors only make up about less than 3% of the overall market? And that's actually going down for the first time in years, which means that we have this huge number of people who are buying and selling properties all of the time, right under our nose, thousands of transactions. They're going to happen regardless. The only question is, are they happening with you? And that's the key thing that I want you to understand. And so when you look at Privy and what they do, they make you the go-to person to work with when it comes to finding investments, when it comes to finding out what a good deal is, when it comes to finding out what the right neighborhoods are, what the wrong neighborhoods are, what previous people had did, all at the touch of a button, right? And so all of a sudden, it's funny, I look at their stuff and I'm like, you know, I worked with all these investors when I was selling real estate, and I'm like, how did I do this without this kind of a tool? And you don't have to do that. Now these kinds of tools are there. And so you're going to hear me in the future talking a lot about working with investors and what that looks like. And like I've said over and over again, it is my job to not only tell you what the problems are and what the solutions are, but ultimately to give you the tools that you need so that you can be the go-to source for something like that. And man, are these people worth a lot of money to you. So do yourself a favor, guys. Go to privy.pro. That's privy.pro. Amazing tool. You can ask us questions. There's more things even coming down the road with them that are just going to blow you away. But this is a tool you need in your business, especially for what it costs. It's not a cost, though. It's an investment, but it's well worth it. Let's start getting those investors. But Alex, you are El Presidente. Practicing my Spanish for Tulum coming up. You're El Presidente of ERA.
Yep.
How long have you been El Presidente there?
So I've been with Anywhere as a whole just over 4.5 years, and I've been president of ERA just over a year and a half.
I was gonna
Seven.
say because usually when people become president there, I know pretty much all of them. Like you usually are something else in that organization, and then
Yeah, but what was interesting was I kind of skip leveled because I was what a lot of people don't know is Anywhere is actually the largest real estate company in the world, right?
I
So
know that. Yeah.
you do. They own 6 real estate brands, ERA being one of them, but they also own Coldwell Banker, and half of the Coldwell Bankers are franchises. The other half are company-owned stores. So I have ran the company-owned stores for Coldwell Banker in Dallas, Fort Worth, and then I kind of skipped a few levels and jumped to the ERA side.
And
So
you were with Coldwell Banker for a while?
I was with Coldwell Banker 3 years.
You know what's funny? That's like the one brand I don't do anything with in Anywhere. And it's because, and I know this because I've got somebody on the inside. Years ago, I did their, what's it called? Their Gen Blue event
Okay.
and went awesome. Packed house, awesome, whatever. One of their old brokers said they didn't like me. and, and the hiring person was not to hire me anymore. And when that person moved on, they told me about it. They're like, just so you know, so and so like made it very clear, and they're like a Star Wars, like nobody messes with them. And he's like, it ticked me off. There's nothing I could do, and I'm never going to tell you who it was, and I'm not going to tell you who the person was who used to hire the speakers who told me that when they left. I'll tell you over like a beer in Tulum sometime. Uh, but
Interesting.
it's one of
Well,
it's
they let
one
me
of the
hire you, so
one
that
of the
person doesn't
few
work with
companies that
ERA.
I don't do anything with, and I don't know if it's still because of that broker, but it's always cracked me up. When I heard that story, I was like, "Oh, that makes sense now. That actually adds up." How
That's
funny is
funny.
that? What were
That
you
is.
doing with Coldwell?
I was their regional vice president, so I oversaw 10 offices and about 1,000 agents in
So
Dallas,
how
Fort
did you
Worth.
go from that to jump
Uh,
into ERA? Because I knew the past presidents and the past like how
yeah.
did that come about?
So essentially, there were three. Well, okay, there's a little backstory to that. So I was running a privately held company in Florida up until 2020. Then in the middle of the pandemic, I moved to Dallas to run Coldwell Banker for Anywhere in Dallas, Fort Worth. the reason I moved there was because anywhere has like that highway system that,
Yeah.
they're so big, the opportunities to grow were huge. And I'm like, I can go national one day, but I'm going to have to get in there and like prove myself. And
So
essentially,
you wanted to eventually, like in your mind, you were thinking bigger.
yeah, I didn't move specifically to run Coldwell Banker in Dallas. I ran to run Coldwell Banker in Dallas because I knew I needed that stepping stone to go national, and I took a bet on myself that I could go there, prove myself, and then grow. But essentially, Sherry, Chris. So three things happened. Liz Geringer, well, yeah, Ryan used to oversee Coldwell Banker. Ryan, oh my God, I'm trying. Oh my God, I'm trying to total blank because
No,
we
I
have
know exactly what you're talking about. Gorman?
Ryan Gorman, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, I can't believe I forgot that. I love the guy. Ryan Gorman left. Liz Geringer was president of CBA, which are the franchise side of Coldwell Banker.
Yeah.
She got promoted. So all of a sudden, the president role for Coldwell Banker affiliates, franchise side, became available. And Sherry Chris, who was the president of
She
both,
was doing Sherry Chris was doing ERA and Better Homes and
and
Gardens.
Better Homes and Garden, retired. So three president roles became available. And I went to everybody in the company. I'm like, I'm going to be one of those presidents. And I
You were
applied.
like, just give me anyone, anyone.
Dude, so you know what's interesting? I applied for all three.
Yeah.
I did. But I realized like, CBA on the franchise side has to play well with the company owned stores because you have a lot of markets where you have franchises and company owned stores, right?
Yeah.
Better Homes and Gardens, it's a big, powerful brand created by Martha Stewart, I believe. And they're like, that's a certain niche.
Yeah.
ERA, and it ended up as I was going through the interview process, kind of worked out. ERA is like me, man. Like as we talked about,
I was
I'm in
gonna
the
say I don't see you and like giving you the story I gave you before, just so you
yeah,
know. I love Coldwell. Like we got a ton of their agents in our programs. I love them. Like I just thought it was a funny story. Like when you brought that up,
yeah.
but I don't see you as a Coldwell guy. Like
Yeah, and I was for a while, and they were a great brand, and we did a
yeah,
lot of great work in Dallas. But when I got into ERA, was as I started interviewing, my style of being president is kind of different because I never went to college. I started as a secretary in the business, and
so
I
wait,
worked.
you don't have a college degree or anything?
Yeah,
Oh, I freaking love that. So my wife, who was a tech CEO, now runs one of our tech companies in our portfolio, First Up, which is on the back of this computer. Same thing.
yeah. No college
Same thing.
degree. Do you know Mike Pappas with Kai's in
Yeah.
Miami?
Yeah, of
Okay.
course. Yeah. Yeah. I did a what do you call it? A cruise with them
Oh, did you?
in my
Well,
early years. Yeah, I did a cruise. I did a 4 or 5 day cruise, and I spoke for like 45 minutes at the thing. I was like, "This is crazy." And I said, "If I could just do this the rest of my life," and then your career grows, and you go, "Well, I can't do that anymore because I can't be away for 4 or 5 days."
yeah, you had to like get off at a port,
Yeah,
and
exactly. It's like send it. Yeah, exactly. But no, I know Mike. Yeah.
I was his secretary at 19.
Are
That's how I
you
got started.
serious?
Yeah.
Dude, I literally just saw something. Him and I were just messaging. I sent him a congrats about something. I forget what it was. I forget what it was, but I saw something in an article or something, and it referenced him, and it just made me think of it. And I just sent him a thing. Hey, man, congrats.
Yeah.
I
Christina,
think
who helps him run Kai's, was a little girl running around the office. And yeah, it was crazy, man. It was
that's
crazy.
so cool. I think that's so cool for everybody to hear, though. So now you're running one of the major brands, and like you don't have a college degree, which, by the way, I think is you can listen to some of my stuff to know my feelings on that. I don't think it would have done anything for you. But the idea that people would still in the corporate world put you in a position without going, well, you have to have that, makes me very happy.
Yeah. Well, and listen, man, there was a lot behind it, right? 27 years, every role,
What's more important, that you had that paper or that you had that experience?
telemarketer, recruiting director, sales coach, sales leadership, 4 states. Like it was crazy.
God, so you were in Florida, obviously, if you were working for Kai's.
Yep.
Everything in me
Florida.
wants to call them keys every time I see them. I think
Yeah.
like everyone else. But you were
Uh,
okay, so you were there, and then that was kind of your taste of real estate, and then you started going, hey, I wanna grow. I wanna
So I mean, it's a long story to cover for 27 years, but essentially with Mike, the real gist of it was, I was his secretary, but they were complaining. He was complaining that they were hiring like 70, 80 brand new agents a month, but
yeah.
losing 70 or 80 agents a month. And I'm like, well,
Yeah,
you
in one end out the other.
yeah. I'm like, hey, you're getting this list of brand new agents getting into the business. Let me call them for you and see
Yeah.
if I can set up additional appointments for your managers. And then I got hired as their telemarketer. Then I became the recruiting director. I went to California, worked with a guy named, do you know Rich Cosner?
Why do I know that name?
He used to own Prudential California Realty.
Okay,
This was
that's why. Okay, that's why.
this was
Yeah.
20 years ago. Was in California for a year, came back, did sales. Then I started working with Prudential in Florida. Then they recruited me to Colorado, came back, and then I went to Texas. So Florida, California, Colorado, Texas, now national and international for ERA.
How long were you married?
I was married 17 years to
Okay, so
get,
some of that was part of that time.
yeah, with the exception of California. Well, I was married to my first son's wife. I've been married twice. I
Yep.
had my first son at 19. That's what got me
Okay.
in.
I
I
did the
needed,
math on it when you gave me the ages.
yeah. And so I needed a real job. I was a camp counselor and became Mike's secretary. I did the right thing. I married his mom. I got her pregnant at 18 and
Gotcha.
I married her to do the right thing. We were together 6 years.
Yeah.
So I did California with her and my ex-wife. Now we did Colorado, Florida, and Texas.
Oh, I lived in Colorado and Florida, not Texas.
We're in, Col-
Uh, what's that?
we're in Colorado.
A few different places, Arvada, Boulder, Denver area. That's why I'm a Bronco fan to this day.
Yeah.
Just is what it is. But it's so funny, man. You mentioned Prudential. One of my one of my most infamous speaking stories is when Prudential, before they came Berkshire Hathaway. What most people don't know is that they were not originally going to be Berkshire Hathaway. So I get hired at this event for their top 50 brokers in the world,
Okay.
and it's in St. Thomas. And I'm just told I'm going to go to this, Ritz Carlton, and I'm going to talk to the top 50 brokers in the world. And, it's a great fee. And I'm just going in for an hour. And I'm like, all right. And they they announced to these top 50 brokers in the world that they're no longer going to be Prudential. They're not sure what they're going to be. At this point, they weren't going to be Berkshire Hathaway. They became Berkshire Hathaway, and Buffett allowed them to use the name. Originally, he wouldn't let them use it because there was such a mass exodus that was coming because of what was happening.
Mhm.
And so I'm at this meeting, these closed door meeting, top 50 brokers in the world. And before I come out, they're like, hey, so here's what's going to happen. Prudential's going to be no more. We don't know what we're going to be. Some of you will be invited and some of you will not. Please help me in welcoming Jared James.
Oh my God.
And I'm when I tell you that that is no exaggeration, like I walk out like, are you what? Like I made a conscious decision to perform for the wall behind them
Yeah.
because not one of them was paying attention to me. And as they should, they're on the phone, they're doing like whatever, what the heck's going on, like, whatever. And I just remember finishing that. Another guy named Ryan, he's a big speaker now in the speaker world, not in the real estate world, but just in the speaker world overall. He was the next guy. He came up to me afterwards and he goes, dude, he goes, that was great for like what they
Yeah.
just put you in front of. Like that was, and then I went to the pool and I'm sitting there and one after another broker comes over and just goes, "Hey man, great job. Just wasn't the time. That wasn't your fault." Like cuz nobody was paying attention. Like it was wowza. And so
Yeah.
that always when I hear Prudential, like I'm like, yeah, it's almost like PTSD.
Yeah.
Like that was early on too. So like that was like I'm like, so this is the speaking world? Like, oh God.
Yeah.
It was very interesting. But anyway, so you came up all through these different ranks, different, whatever, and you started working with Anywhere, you said how many years ago? 6 years
Uh,
ago?
June of 2020, right in the middle of the pandemic, man. Moved to Dallas and a Winnebago with my kids, my wife at the time, the dogs, the cat. It was crazy, man. I had to do all my meetings with a mask on.
God,
You know,
everybody's going to I was just in our, Tom Ferry.
of course,
Yeah, so him and I were talking this last Sunday. He moved to Dallas along with a couple others. Everybody's trying to get me to Dallas over there, which I do love Texas.
no state income,
Um,
being great barbecue.
Oh yeah, dude, I love Texas, man. Seriously, I would move there. My younger son's favorite city is San Antonio.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Like absolutely loves it. But all right, so you're doing that. You're in with ERA. What is when you look at ERA, right? It's so interesting because I remember seeing you for the first time on something and thinking, oh, that's not like your traditional brand president,
Yeah.
which I always like to see because like when I was coming up, I felt like there was just this disconnect between like people like me who was like talking to the agents and we're doing whatever, and then there'd be like the brand presidents, and I'm like, okay, well that's more like my father, or that's like a whatever. So I saw someone like you, and I was like, oh, that's really cool. Like that's a whatever. I've seen online and stuff that you're doing all of the fitness stuff and the. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, what got you into that? What makes you like in it? How do you stick with that when you're on the road? Do you stick with it when you're on the road?
Yeah.
Like, what's your whole love for that?
Yeah, so it's interesting. The time that we met was actually for Lux Realty's agent conference in Miami. I don't know if you remember that. That was man, that was back when I was with Cole Banker. So that was
I'm
a
not
lot.
gonna lie, like you just said that. I did not even know that we had met. We met at the
Yeah.
Lux event
Yeah,
in
we spoke on the
Miami.
same. We met at Lux Realty, Wesley's company. She did a conference at like the Improv. It was at a comedy club, which was a great venue for an agent event at the
Yeah,
comedy club
I
because it was
remember
set
that.
up. Yeah, yeah. And I spoke, and then you
Dude,
came.
so wait a second. I feel like I do remember meeting you now, but I didn't put together that that was you.
Yeah, I went as a speaker. It was real estate, but at the time, I had a company with my kids called LTFS, and so it was about life's too effing short. So that was like the whole talk was about life's effing short.
Dude, I
Anyway,
just put that together. Like
yeah,
I did not know that that was the thing.
yeah, yeah.
Dang.
So
Okay.
that's but the fitness thing, like I don't necessarily know how I got into triathlons per se. Honestly, like I love to run. It's running is my favorite of the sports. But once I did one, I did it to raise money for charity. I just
Oh
got
wow,
hooked.
okay.
And then after I did it, I'm like, this is awesome. And then as interestingly enough, like after my divorce, I always this is gonna sound really bad. Like I always wanted to do an Ironman, but to give you an idea, doing an Ironman takes about 20 hours a week of training.
It's tough to because it takes a toll on all of your life, basically, is what you're saying,
Your
right?
entire life. And
Yeah.
so my ex-wife at the time was like, "You're gonna wake up at 4 in the morning to go train, and you're gonna wake me up, and you're gonna miss
Yeah.
this, and you're gonna miss that, and da da da." So I didn't have that anymore. So I'm like, "All right, if I'm gonna do it, now's the time to do it."
Yeah.
And I did it while I was traveling, and so you just got to set up boundaries. Like I have a rule. I typically don't do night events because I wake up super early the next day to train. I typically will look
Hopefully
at
that wasn't your rule in Tulum. I just want to be clear.
no, that was no. I
Yeah.
actually didn't work. Tulum, I took some time off,
Good.
uh, but but I'll look at a hotel's gym to see what.
I do the same thing, or I'll come in and I'll go. So like, do you have a gym or do you have like a closet with a treadmill in it?
Correct,
Yeah.
correct. Or find out like I belong to Lifetime Fitness, so like, is there a Lifetime Fitness around, or
I
is
do
there?
the dude. I do the same. I get trials. I go to a place with a
Yeah,
sauna. I go
freestyle.
to a
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
And so for me, it's just like one of the. I think it's about capacity. Like how far can you push your body? Could you be president of the company and do an Ironman and be a dad and be a boyfriend? Like, could you do all these things?
Yeah.
And the reality is, you don't know until you try. And either you're going to fail, but at least you fail trying, or you're going to accomplish it. And yeah, I trained while I was traveling for work. I'd find cities,
Yeah.
warm cities. I'd find running trails. I'd go for runs. I'd
Yeah.
be on the Peloton for 2 hours if that was it. Worked with a coach and, told my coach, hey, I'm traveling. I want this to be my day off. Let's use like this is what the hotel has. And so just having somebody like you're a coach, right? So agents, there are a lot of agents that have the will and the fortitude and want to do it. They just don't necessarily know what they're waking up to do every day.
Yeah.
And I had a coach that told me what to do every day, and I just followed the
Give
plan.
me a routine. Yeah. Like I say all the time, consistency's undefeated. Like, good or bad, If you
Yep.
eat brownies every morning for breakfast, consistency's undefeated. Like
Yep.
if it's all the same. But would you say that you are, this is going to sound weird at first, but are you an addictive personality?
To good things, yes.
Okay.
Like
So I asked that question, by the way, because um, we always describe me as someone who has an addictive personality without any of like the bad addictions.
yeah,
Meaning like I'm not, like drugs, alcohol, like, whatever. But I 100% have an addictive personality, meaning like when I go in on something, I'm in on it. Like that is, would you say that you
yeah. My sister said it best. She goes, the Vidal family is wired in exaggeration. So either we don't pay attention to it, or we're all in. Like
yeah,
there's no in between, right?
yeah.
And so uh I'm definitely addicted to fitness. I'll work out twice today. Like I'll work out this morning and then I'll be on the road for 3 hours driving to Billings, drive to Billings. And when I get to my hotel, I'll jump on the treadmill, just do something
Yeah.
just to even shake the cobwebs of being in the car for 3 hours.
Were you always like that, or does that have to do with something with like the age of just trying to fight it and make sure that you don't
No,
that you stay ahead?
I've been pretty much I've been doing triathlon since like 2005, right? So I've
Okay.
always been into doing, and then I did CrossFit for a lot of years. So I've always been into something.
Yeah,
Uh, I always tell people it's my therapy, like the aesthetic, muscle, abs, whatever, like
I get
all
it.
that stuff is secondary.
Yeah, I get it, man. So I was so like I've worked out for years and years and years, and like my reason for it is not what it used to be. I mean, like my older son now, can eat a gallon of ice cream and show me his 8 pack.
Yeah.
And Dad, what do you think of this? What do you think? And I'm like, dude, like look at your friends' other dads. Like we're doing just fine here,
Yes. That's a,
I'm not going to compete with an 18-year-old. And by the way, you're welcome for those genes, you
yeah.
ungrateful,
The best is when your kids come up to you and they're like, "Hey, my friend said you're jacked." I mean, that sounds so like so terrible, but it's funny, man. It's when
Well,
you're
dude, what's funny? My son sent me a video the other day, and he goes, "My friend sent me this and said this looks like your dad." And it's this guy modeling these sweats, and
yeah,
he's shirtless. And I'm like, my God, if your friends think I look like that, I'm never letting them see me shirtless because it
you
was
don't want to ruin the image.
ridiculous. I don't want to ruin the image, dude.
Yeah,
It was absurd. Like
yeah.
it was like, look, I'm not embarrassed. My whole thing is just not to be embarrassed on a beach. Like I'm fine,
Right.
like I'm whatever, but like I still enjoy other parts of my life and whatever. Like I'm not an absolute like whatever. This dude that he sent over was, if He-Man was, I'm just like, that's ridiculous. Like that's
That's
what your
all
friends think I look like. Like,
right. And
hey,
it's the example, man. Like for our kids, like my kids are super, my 18 my soon to be 18-year-old will probably play D1 soccer. I would venture to say my one of my twins, who's a soccer player, is starting to kick football.
don't
And
even get me on the soccer kick. I'm gonna leave that to the side. We'll
he's
we'll just
kicking 55-yard field goals. Like he'll go college, kicking in college.
that's
But it's
awesome.
like we and their mom is great. Listen, she's a great co-parent, right? Like she's an amazing mother. I'm very grateful that
Yeah.
they have her as a mom. She sets a great example for them too in that regard. Like she's super fit. So we show them that you can be a professional, be an executive, and also take care of yourself. There's no excuse, you know?
Yeah, man. My wake up call was I went to a 10-year high school reunion.
Oh.
And we're talking 10 years after high school. This shouldn't be, whatever. And I just looked around and went, has everyone given up on life?
Hmm.
Like it was unfreaking real 10 years out of high school, how everyone was overweight, outside smoking, outside whatever. And I was just like, it wasn't even just about me, man. It was about my kids too. I'm like, I'm not allowing this. Like, I'm not allowing them to think this is normal. Like, I'm not allowing, it's so funny because in the modern day world, we've almost taught people that like to be a good parent, to be a good whatever, it means that you are always right by their side. You don't miss anything. You go do whatever. And there's some of that that's true, but there's another side too that if you don't teach your kids that with success comes sacrifice, with success comes having to get out and miss breakfast and go running and go do this, or it comes with, whatever it is, well, then they grow up thinking that if you just hang around, you succeed. And it's like, no, 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 there's way more that goes into this than that. And I think we do a disservice for our kids just by making them think that by hanging around everything, you just, by osmosis, you're just going to be successful. Like
Well, and you
that's
got to be
just,
healthy. I mean, we have like you have two boys. I have four boys. I've seen your pictures before. Our boys are really active, and so
yeah,
for us, if I want to go and play football with my boys, or go lift weights with my boys, or go play
dude.
soccer, like dude, I'm going to throw my back out if I don't keep myself up in shape with it.
Dude, this is like, so that's why I asked you if the age plays in, if you've gotten more, because I can tell you that as I've gotten older, um, there's a couple things that have played in. There is no doubt. So, like, my wife and I keep each other in check. We're like, we are staying in shape. We are not giving up. We are not, there's natural aging, there's natural whatever, but like, we're not going to allow each other to just kind of like, oh, now I can play Santa without a pillow in the, whatever. But I no doubt want to be able to be on a beach and not be embarrassed. Okay. I don't need to look like Mr. America. I don't need to, I just don't want to be embarrassed. Like that's fine. But the other thing, man, is like I got two boys. Like I need to be able to do stuff with them. And one day when they have kids, I need to be able to do stuff with them and not talk about, I used to. I don't need to perform like I did in high school, but I need to be able to do stuff with them. And a lot of that just comes from being active, just moving, just
I've done two races, or I've done one race twice, and then another race where my boys, I told them about it, and they were like, "You're absolutely crazy." And the fact that they told me I was absolutely crazy
yeah.
made me want to do it even more. And the two races were the Ironman that we talked about, and that's a 2.4 mile swim, 112-mile bike, and then a full marathon. So like I started the full marathon at
God,
eight.
you did the full marathon?
Yeah. So I started the full marathon at 8 hours and 19 minutes, and I finished. It took me 5 hours. I finished 13 hours, 19 minutes is the Ironman. But then I did this other one called the Escape from Alcatraz, where they take you by boat
Do not tell me you got in that water.
twice.
With the sharks?
Yeah, twice. Sorry. Let me see if I can. Let me see while we. Yeah.
Alex,
I,
Alex, Alex, the only thing worse than dying in a shark attack. Do you know what
yeah.
it is?
Putting yourself in that position.
Not dying in a shark attack.
Oh man.
That's
You know. So what's interesting about it is they actually here. So that the green is where we start,
Oh
and
my God.
that's where you
You don't
gotta.
even think about the sharks. For
No,
anybody, for anybody who's like listening right now and not watching, he just showed me a picture of like where he swims across the water. You don't even think about the sharks.
no. So you get a wild in the preparation for the race. You get a wildlife email, and it talks about the wildlife that you may encounter. And they say that there are great whites, but the
Of
great
course
whites
there are.
they're baby great whites.
Yeah, okay. Okay.
They're they're deep down in the water. That what you may encounter, if anything, is like a seal or a sea lion because they're curious.
Well,
But
well,
there's
first off, the last thing I want to see is a seal because that's called bring on the non-baby great whites.
yeah, and well, but you're jumping in the water with 2,000 people. There's a lot of commotion. Just
So
you
did you
put your
always make sure that you were surrounded by lesser people in case, you had to do something, you could just push them in front of you?
well there. So in most triathlons, they set buoys for you to follow.
Wow.
This race, the water's too deep to set buoys, so they kind of make a channel for you with kayaks to kind of lead you along the way. So you try to stay in the middle, and
It just sounds like a hunting ground for great whites.
yeah, dude, the water's so cold. It's 55 degrees. You worry more about am I going to survive getting out of the water because of the temperature than you are any wildlife.
Yeah, Alex, I got to be honest with you. I think I'd worry the whole time about sharks.
Yeah,
Like, I am so conscious of
I hear you.
like, you know, oof, yeah,
You'll see
that's
like a flash, and it's maybe your hand in the water, like as you're rotating, like you just kind of see a flash, and you kind of but I don't know, man. But here's the thing: to be able to tell people you escaped Alcatraz, that's a hell of a story,
Oh
bro.
no, I'm with you. I think that's an awesome story for me to be able to say I know someone who escaped
Yeah,
Alcatraz,
twice.
but
I
I
did
am
it
not.
twice.
I am not. Okay. I'm not getting in that water.
Yeah.
Like I will push myself to the physical whatever. I don't feel like getting into a fight with a shark. Like it's
Yeah.
just not my thing. But hey guys, I want to talk to you about an amazing real estate tool right now called Mosaik. If you want to take your people off of the portals where they're all hanging out and whatever and into your ecosystem, this is the tool that does that. This is a beginning to end, not a CR, it's not another CRM, it doesn't replace that, but it's a beginning to end system that really looks at the lifetime value of your client and looks at every part of that process and takes care of all of it in a way that's completely transparent. So yes, they've got search, they've got transaction coordination, they've got, even for us, when we do things like we teach our students the Core 100, they've got the ability to put those people in there, track what's happening, do all of that in an amazing way. But probably the thing that I love about this more than anything is the transparency. In an industry that keeps talking about transparency, and usually when you hear something over and over again, it means that it's not being done at all. This is actually a transparent tool. This is the first tool that I've seen that actually brings the consumer into the transaction. And I think that is the next level of where we are going within this industry. You hear from so many buyers and sellers that, oh, my agent didn't do anything, or I feel like they're not, and there's not this communication going on. This is the first tool I've seen, almost like the early days of Loop, where you had that collaboration, but it was just for the document and the signature. They can do that with the transaction now, not only with the clients, but with the vendors, whoever it is, in an amazing way where they can see every step of what's going on. You can write notes to them back and forth. They can see every part of the paperwork and everything and the way that you decide to show it. It's really the next level of what we need to be doing from a consumer experience perspective, so they know what's happening, and more importantly, we drive that lifetime value back to you. So if you haven't yet, guys, this is a tool you're going to hear over and over again. You're going to hear me talk about it because I really think it's my role to not just define what the problems or solutions are, but provide the tools that will actually get you there. And while so many tools right now are just check the box and just say you have them, this is one yourself, your team, your brokerage. If you're not on it yet, you need to be. This is not the last you're going to hear about this. They're going to grow astronomically, and this is something you need to get on board with if you're going to operate. If you're going to be one of those people that really overcomes and is that top producer in your area, you've got to have the right tools in place, and Mosaik is one of those right now. So do yourself a favor. Go check out mosaik.io, mosaik.io. Again, mosaik.io. You won't regret it, guys. Send us questions if you do, but this is one of those ones that you're going to look back on and remember, amazing tool. But anyway, let's talk real estate, man. So you've
50
been in the
minutes
industry a long time.
podcast,
What's that?
50 minutes into the podcast. All right, let's talk real estate.
Dude, I don't care about like so literally
I hear you.
I get people who will complain, they'll listen to the podcast and they'll be like, "Oh, I don't know. I wanted to hear about, the three ways to do whatever." And I'm like, "Awesome. Then Go watch my Instagram reels, go watch my YouTube channel, join our academy, go do whatever. Like literally, I launched the podcast for a longer form to show a different side. Like
Yeah.
just to have conversations, chat with people, talk, like do whatever. Like not to two ways to do, whatever. Like go
Thank
watch a
God.
60-second reel for that, And occasionally we do talk about those things and it comes up, but like, I just like the conversation of it all. Like that's, a little
I,
different side.
I agree.
So we get to talk Tulum and whatever. But anyway, so real estate.
Yeah.
So we've both been in it a long time. What a time. I mean, my God. Yeah, so if you've been the president now for you said 2 years.
A year and a half.
Okay, so I mean, what a time to take over.
Yeah.
You're in an interesting position because Anywhere was one of the few places that came out and said they're still going to support broker to broker compensation,
Mhm.
which is so interesting. Um, what is your take? Like, are you as the president, like, are you able to have your own take, or is it kind of like, all right, that's what our parent company says? And by the way, for anybody listening, Anywhere is used to be Realogy.
Yeah.
It's been yeah, and so
They own ERA, Better Homes and Garden, Corcoran, Sotheby's, Coldwell Banker, and Century 21.
yeah, yeah. So as a brand, when you're under that, when they say that Anywhere, then you guys as a brand kind of have to do that, right?
Yeah, I mean, yes and no. I mean, I listen. I love the fact that we supported our realtors. To me, with all the changes, and again, I am bound to what I can and can't say because we're a public company.
By the way, I was literally going to start off and say any of these things I ask you about, either stumble around a little bit and I'll move on, or just be like, I can't go
Oh,
too in depth.
no, no, no. Not my first rodeo with this.
Yeah, yeah.
But here's what I'll tell you, man. I love what we're going through. Like I love it because, and I was just talking about it with this group here in Bozeman. Like when I sold real estate, I was a huge listing agent, and I hated buyers
Yeah.
because in Miami, buyer rep agreements were not a course of business. Like I think it was like 18 states had it in place. Florida was not one of them. Definitely
Yep.
not Miami. And
By the way,
anytime
even most of them that had it in place,
didn't
wink,
practice.
wink, not everybody was doing it. Like,
And it was like, I'd go show a buyer. I remember specifically showing a buyer $1 million property, and then he went and they bought it with their cousin. And good luck going to the board of realtors and trying to get procuring
yeah,
commission. And so the fact that this was forcing realtors and buyers in particular to sit down, have a true consultation, and mutually agree to work together the same way you do as a seller, and sign a contract that we're going to work together, whether it be for one property or for 6 months, like whatever your flavor was, it got people to the table. And you
yeah.
know what, Jared? As much as we want to think about real estate's change, and there's AI and there's CRM and there's social media and there's all that crap, man, now more than ever, because clients and customers don't read the same headlines that you and I read on a daily
One
basis.
100%. They're not in the same bubble.
And they don't even get it. Like, what an amazing time to stand out from everybody else. So I personally love Anywhere's opinion or not. Like, I love what we're doing. I
Yeah.
love it.
It's
And
it's
I love
uh
what's happening right now.
it's so interesting, man, because like I describe it. I'll probably talk about this at your conference. We'll get into that in a second, but like
Yeah.
I describe it as the idea that conversation has been forced. And if you're one of those pros in the industry, that's a good thing.
Mhm.
And what I mean by that is we got a lot of people in our industry that think that a real estate license comes with a fancy car, fake boobs, and an upgrade in spouse. Because they just watch TV and watch whatever and whatever and we're all rich and we're all whatever and or they're just great matchmakers. They're great with people and whatever and yet when you think about it, it's the largest assets ever anybody's ever going to buy or sell. It's the third most stressful time in their life, and it's not a bad thing that conversation has now been forced. And that all those people who were just good looking and they were taking all the business in your area but didn't know their foot from their whatever, you should be happy about the fact that this is not good for them, because now we've got to actually have in-depth conversations that matter to the consumer, and that's going to make a lot of people. I use the example, this is a really weird example, but like if you've ever seen like someone of the opposite sex who's like a 9 or a 10 and then they start to talk and
Yeah.
it's like 8, 7,
Yeah.
6, 5, shut your mouth, like whatever. um at the same time, if you've ever seen somebody who's like a 5 or a 6 and they start to talk 7, 8, 9, we all get a chance to be the hot girl in the room right now, because those that know what to say, know what to know what words to use, know where to go with people, they're professionals and understand how important this conversation is now. We all get a chance to look a little better,
Yeah. It's
if
a
you're a
lost skill,
pro.
dude. It's a lost skill. Like
Yeah,
that's
it is.
really
It is, man. Like, yeah, it's
wild.
100%. So I'm with you on that. Like, I don't love, I don't love what happened from the perspective I think a lot of it was a money play,
Yeah.
evidenced by the fact that a company like Berkshire Hathaway, which has about a third of the agents and does a third of the business of Remax pays 58 million, Berkshire Hathaway pays 250 because they have more cash in the bank. Like, I think that's absurd, but at the end of the day, if the rules change for everybody, we're all playing on the same chessboard. So
Yep.
pros win. What about, are you able to have an opinion on? Do you have any feelings about clear cooperation?
Yeah, I think, anywhere is in favor of clear cooperation with a few of the amendments, amendments to it. And I'm in agreement. I think it's vital to the marketplace, man, for
Do you
sure.
think someone should have the ability, if they sign a waiver, to say, no, I want this marketed privately?
Oh, I don't know if I can answer that. No, I'm just being real with you,
We'll
man.
do it over a vodka one night, okay?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
I
we'll leave
think,
that
listen,
as
I
because I'm going to
think,
tell you my position is I think about this a lot, and I actually just had. Do you know Leo from EXP?
yeah,
All right, so he and I were literally just talking about this, and he's huge advocate, clear
mhm,
cooperation, got to have it, like it's there, and I'm with him on his arguments. I am. I'm also such a free market person that I'm like, if a consumer, if a seller says, no, 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 but I want it done this way, like I want you, especially in some of those markets like LA and some of these other places where that can actually do better. I'm like, a seller should be able to do what they want to do. And the idea that you have clear cooperation, because there's no doubt that there will be bad actors that if you don't have clear cooperation are going to try to take it all the time off the market. Not no doubt, I'm not denying that. I'm just always a free market guy, so I like the idea of just such a simple fix of we have clear cooperation, but we also have a waiver that a seller says if I want to exercise my right to do it a different way, we're in America, go for it.
yeah. Like when Ryan Schneider talked about it, he's like, listen, there are certain scenarios that warrant it not being on the market. Like if somebody was a victim of physical abuse or like, hey, it's going to
Oh,
affect my
sure,
job.
good point.
If my house goes on the market, and I think he used the analogy of a football coach, and
Yeah.
then all of a sudden your house goes on the market, people are going to know you're moving. Like there's certain scenarios I
Yeah.
think carve outs. How you manage that, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting how it
Good
shakes
point.
out. But here's the deal. A year ago, everybody thought our world was going to implode, right? Or not even a year ago, 6 months ago when August rolled around, and everybody's doing just as good, right? I think it's better for the consumer, it's better for the realtor, and I think wherever clear cooperation lands, I think we're all going to be all right, man. Like,
That's exactly right. If they change the rules, they change it for everybody. And for anybody who doesn't know, Ryan Schneider is the CEO of Anywhere,
yeah,
the brands overall. So when he mentions him, that's a good example, by the way, though, because in that kind of a situation, if that football player, football coach, or whatever goes with an agent locally that has the connections, it could work out just as well, if not better, without having to put it on there. And so I guess that's kind of my point is there are situations I can argue with that I go, well, that makes sense. But then I also understand the argument that you want maximum
yeah,
exposure. So I just think it's funny that anytime you have disagreements about things, people go so far one way or the other that they forget there's usually a nuance. There's kind of like an inability to see both sides. And it's like I'm sitting here going, I kind of see both sides. I do, and I'm not really angry about either. I'm just, but it's just this funny world we're in now where if someone disagrees, they get angry. And it's
yeah.
like, how could you want that? You
I
know,
don't pay. Honestly, man, I focus on the things that I can control. That's it. Like
that's
we talked about Tulum. I couldn't control the weather. I could control whether I had a good time or not. Right. So I
yeah.
focused on, all right, how can I have a good time? Spent a lot of money on some really great tequila and had a great time. Just the way
God, that's fantastic. All right, so things you can control. Let's talk about this. So you have a conference coming up,
you do. Fuel.
which I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, because I didn't look this up, but is it ERA Fuel?
Yeah, fuel.
Oh,
That's right.
thank God. For a second there, I went, did I just say the wrong name?
Wait, we're paying you in.
First off, hey, let me say thank you to you, man, because you reached out to me for it, and then I couldn't do it because of the dates. And then you kind of mixed some stuff around and you were like, can you do March 1st if we had you come in? And I was like, dang, well, let's make it work, man. Like that's so you want to tell us what you guys are doing? Like what
Yeah. So here's what's really interesting and how we made it work and kind of the idea behind it. So last year when we did Fuel, it was my first one. We did it in Nashville. It ended up being one of like the highest ranking Fuel that we've ever done. Right.
Wow.
We had one keynote speaker, Tom Ferry. I think everybody, again,
Yep.
And every time he spoke, everybody, slide went up, and I know they're going to do the same with you, like taking pictures of the slides. Oh my God, highly rated conference, whatever.
Yeah.
Um, so when we started, anytime we do something, we look at it from two perspectives. One, we look at it and say, okay, are the agents going to look at this as an investment or an expense? And whether it's fuel or anything,
That's
and
a
we
good
want to
point.
make sure that the agent looks at it like an investment, not an expense. And are we delivering on what they want? So we went to what we call our National Advisory Council, comprised of 15 of our owners from across the country, different company sizes. We're like, hey, we're starting to plan fuel for next year. What do we do? Do we bring Tom back? Do we bring another speaker? And they're like, man, Tom was great. Everybody loved him. But Alex, do you want to be known as the president that just rinse and repeats the same, speaker or whatever? I'm like, cool. Well, if not him, who? Immediately, Jared. Jared's young. He's hip. I love the fact that you're 43 because now I feel young at 46. I've always felt young, just joking, but you know what I mean? Like, and I'm like, he's super cool. Agents love him. He's super well known in the ERA network. I'm like, great. Well, what else? What if he's not available? Larry Kendall, Ninja Selling. Dan Elzer, who's kind of been, in the ERA network, old school kind of guy,
Yep.
whatever. And I'm like, all right, well, reach out to Jared. So they reach out to you. Our keynote speakers, it's the events Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, February 27th through March 2nd. And it was like, hey, Jared can't do it Friday. He can do it Saturday. And I'm like, well, shit. Okay, well, now what? So then I asked
I
a
don't
very
even think when
stupid.
you first reached out, you gave the option of it. I think you said the days leading up to maybe
No,
it
no,
was
no.
Friday or whatever it was.
I had asked you if you were available, and you're like, I can't do Friday, but I could probably do Saturday if
Right.
we can make it
Okay.
work. And so then I looked at our team. I'm like, I'm going to ask a really crazy, stupid question. What if we brought them all? Right? No brand conference has ever, like, Inman will do it, NAR may do it, but no real estate brand, anywhere
No,
brand.
I mean, I'll be very honest. So like Tom and I were having a conversation this last Sunday morning in my house here. And we're like trying to figure out like, hey, when are you and I going to be in the same place? Like when can we see each
Yeah,
other? And then we're just like, it doesn't happen. Like usually if one of us is there, the other one's not there. And if that one's there, that one's not there. Whatever. I didn't
hey,
even
well,
put it
fuel.
together that technically we'll both be doing this one.
Yeah, now he may be gone by the time because he's speaking. So like Friday, Tom and Larry Kendall are speaking with a couple other keynote
Yeah.
speakers. Then on Saturday, you and Dan Elzer are speaking,
Oh,
but we
nice.
made it happen. So we have four, are in my opinion, two and you and
That's awesome.
Tom, biggest real estate names, brand coaches in the business speaking, and that just doesn't happen at a brand conference.
That's
And
so
so
cool.
I'm pumped. I'm really pumped, man,
Oh, dude,
because it just doesn't.
that's so cool. That is and that is in San Diego.
San Diego, baby.
San
Yeah.
Diego. I can't remember where I'm flying over from, but I'm flying. We got to make sure when I'm in, we get to like have a drink or talk or
Oh,
something.
we will for sure.
Uh,
And you're in the afternoon. You're not even going on in the morning, I think. So we'll definitely be able to have the drink.
I got to, well, I meant that more from the perspective. This is your conference. Like I never assume, dude. Like I'm like, do your thing. Like I get it. You got to shake a ton of hands and you got to do your thing. And,
Yeah.
I get it, man. Like
Well, I'm in the
it's,
middle. I don't just walk from behind. I actually usually am working the crowd. And then when they're like the voice of God comes on, the VOG comes on, they're like, Alex Vidal. Then it takes me a minute because I got to walk through the crowd to get to the front. I'm not in the back. I'm like in the audience with the people,
how do
you
you,
know?
how do you enjoy that? Do you like being at the conference? Is that like, you love it? You don't like it? Like what's your,
Dude,
you can't say
I'm
you
like
don't
you,
like it.
man.
You wouldn't say that on here, but
No,
I
no,
mean
no,
like,
no, no. No, I'm like you, man. Like being in the hotel, the time on the
yeah,
plane, like we're not on. So
yeah.
that's our time to kind of recharge. But when you're in that environment, the energy, man, there's
That's
just,
it.
oh,
Yeah,
oh,
and also, man, I don't know about you, but it's validation too for everything that you're doing. So, like, I was doing a thing the other day, and I did a meet and greet afterwards, and I was there for 3 hours taking pictures, shaking hands, and a lady comes up to me and she goes, "You just must hate this." And I literally like I was like, I mean, look, I'm not saying it's not, again, first world problems. I'm not saying it's not exhausting. I'm not saying it's whatever, but what do you mean you hate this? Like I would have killed for this 15 years ago. It means that you've done your job and people are validating the fact that they like what you're doing, they like what you're saying, they like your programs, they like your, whatever. Like these are the best problems to have on planet Earth. Like
dude.
this is amazing.
Jared, I posted about it yesterday. I landed by the time I got in from Tulum and to bed because of flight delays and all that stuff. I went to bed at 1 a.m.
Yeah.
I woke up at 6:30, literally unpacked, repacked, went to the gym because I had to clear the fog,
Yeah.
home, showered, went straight to the airport because
Yeah.
I was leading a recruiting and retention coaching program for our leaders that I lead
Yep.
myself. And I had to do it from the airport because it was going to end right at the time I had the board. And then I boarded it and I boarded my flight to Bozeman. And I literally posted in my story, I'm like, I'm fueled right now by cold brew coffee and the fact that I love what I do.
Oh,
Right.
that's
And
awesome.
it's awesome, man. It's a
That's all.
blast.
Are you on Instagram?
I am.
I gotta follow you on there. I
Thank
gotta.
you.
What's I follow 50 people, man.
Do you?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of a just a I don't know.
I'm gonna
Let
have
me
to.
jump on here. Let me jump on here and get you.
No, you don't follow me. Oh, that's it, man. You're fired. You're not coming to the conference anymore.
Bam, refresh it. Refresh it. Refresh it. All right? Done.
Uh,
Look at that.
let's see.
Anyway, that's dude, I completely get that. That's so cool.
I
So
don't
you
see it.
guys
You're not. Oh, there. Wait, no. I don't think you're on there yet. Let's see.
I did. I just did it.
You sure you got the right Alex Vidal?
Yeah, right there. There's even a picture in Tulum.
It's not. Hasn't come up
You
yet.
have the bikini on.
Yeah, the bikini. Yes.
No, and it says that you're following also. So I definitely did. And it now
Okay,
says I'm
cool.
following
All right,
100%.
it
That's you,
hasn't
right?
been. Uh,
Let me
can't
take
see.
the
Yeah, that's me.
Yeah, yeah, I got you. I
All right,
got
cool.
you.
All right, you're back. You're
Um,
hired again. You're
anyway,
hired.
so cool. All right, so obviously we have a ton of ERA people on our network and everything
Yeah.
else. We've got a ton of brands, but like ERA, where if people have not registered yet, where do they go?
Oh, good question. They actually, I tell them just go to my Instagram at Vidal Alex,
Yep.
and then in the bio it has the link. If not, it's like a huge like Bitly link type deal. So
That's so cool. You know what I love about you being an ERA? To me, you're like the perfect like I think that brands themselves are going away, and I think that now we're going to the idea of like the personification of brands, meaning
mhm,
like brands need faces. Brands need like we are the brands. Like we are like that's how it works. And
100%.
I love the fact that you're a guy that it's like when I go through the brands and I go, who's the president? Who's the CEO? I go, yep, that's Alex. Over here, I'm not really sure. Over here, that's so and so. Over here, like to me in today's world, brands need a face. Like they need a personality. They need someone that someone goes, oh yeah, that's ERA, or oh yeah, that's whoever it's going to be. So I love the fact you're doing that. What do you think the advantages of you being with ERA? Like you've been there now a couple years.
Yeah.
You've obviously have certain goals and visions and just things you want to do with them.
Yeah.
What do you think has been the biggest impact, like that
Yeah,
you've
no,
been able
I'll
to?
tell you what the biggest advantage is. So I equated a lot to the company I ran in Florida. We're privately held, took over a company with two offices and 40 agents. And they literally said, we're not going to put the two parent companies said, we're not going to put any more money into the kitty. You're going to use whatever's in the related ISG bank account and don't get us sued. Other than that, Alex, we're going to close the company. So go do what you want.
Don't get
Figure it
us
out.
sued.
Fast forward 6 years later, we're six offices, 600 agents, and then I moved to Coldwell Banker. The one thing I love about ERA, of all the brands, we're the only brand that's 100% franchise, not franchise and
Yeah, like corporate owned and
company owned store. We don't have a licensing agreement with anybody for the name, right? We're small enough that we're like a speedboat versus a cruise ship, and the owners are super involved in their business. They're not hands off. They're in
yeah,
the business just as much as I am, like in running it.
yeah,
And so we have a bunch of group of people that love to work together. They travel together. They're like family. They care about each other. They bust their ass. I bust my ass. And we're nimble enough and small enough that we can pull off crazy ideas like the fact that we did, fuel with all these keynote speakers, or
that's
we
awesome.
did a broker event. There was a time that we weren't sure how, like, even Inman wasn't selling out, right? Like, so a lot of people weren't attending a lot of events. And I'm like, here, let me do this. Let me do a broker event. Give me headquarters. I need headquarters to do it at headquarters. I go, but we're not going to plan the food. We're not going to plan the outings. Let me see if I can sell the event out first. Give me a month. If I can sell it out in a month, then we'll back into it and hire
Yeah,
all the
because now you've
service.
got revenue to be able to go and
Yeah, we sold it out in 4.5 days.
that's awesome.
And we could do it with our company. So it's kind of like the fact that yes, we are we are a publicly traded company. We're a national real estate brand, but I feel like we can run it the way we want to do it, and that's
Yeah.
where the most fun. It's like the best of both worlds.
How many? So like, I don't know if you guys call them affiliates, agents, what you guys call them. How many?
We have
What
about
like?
100.
What's the size of ERA now?
Yeah, so we have in the U.S. we have about 13,000 agents as a whole. We have 40,000 agents because we're actually pretty large internationally in Asia
Yep.
specifically, and in Europe. And then, but in the U.S. we have 13,000 agents, and we have about 100, just over 170 franchisees.
Very cool. And now the conference that I'm doing, that's the one that's open to everybody or just the US?
Open, yeah, open to everybody.
That's awesome.
That's gonna be fun.
I know you gotta get running. Anything you want to leave anybody with? Anything you want to
That's it, man.
send them
Focus on
to?
what you can control. Take some risk. What's the worst that can happen? You fail, so what, man? Like just fail forward, baby. Just go do it. The answer
All
is
right.
always no, but you try. So,
Where do they connect with you? I know you mentioned your Instagram handle. What do you want to
yeah,
give
I
them?
think Instagram is probably the best. At Vidal, Alex Vidal on Facebook. I'm more active. My audience seems to be more on Instagram than it is on Facebook. So probably Facebook.
Everybody, I mean, look, my biggest audience is on Instagram by far, but it's like I think that's just the way of the world. We'll link it up. Tom, make sure we link up his Insta on here when we do the post edit.
Cool. All
Sweet man. Well, hang on
right,
one
brother.
second here, but we're gonna end for everybody, guys. Go give Alex a follow if you are in the ERA network. I will see you in San Diego. Coming up, looking forward to that. That's going to be a blast. It's been a couple years I think since I did the ERA conference. So I'm looking forward to doing that. Alex, my man, so much fun. I feel like we could do this for hours and not even talk about real estate. So,
I want to be on the beach with Cabo with you. I think you and I could have a
I
lot of
think
fun.
we'd have an absolute blast. And I think that might happen at some point. So,
I think we should.
thank you, everybody. Thanks for watching.